Recently, well, relatively recently, I watched Bofire 191's video, where he shared his opinion on the current state of Star Wars. He said that Star Wars is no longer fun, and that he has found himself starting to care less about new Star Wars releases. He then goes on to explain his opinions on the Star Wars franchise and the Star Wars fandom. Now, I completely agree with his sentiments and observations on the current state of the Star Wars fandom post The Last Jedi. And this video isn't a response, but instead a supplement to his. Bofire mentioned in his video that when he criticised Rey Sue for being a Mary Sue, he was called a misogynist and a sexist, in spite of the fact that he is a fan of expanded universe characters such as Mara Jade. There were commenters who dismissed his arguments and engaged in character attacks instead. I myself have experienced this, as I also made a video decrying Rey Sue as a Mary Sue, and some individuals have responded by calling me names. Every YouTuber or commenter who criticised the characters Rey and Finn from Force Awakens were instantly snared with demeaning labels of sexist, racist, and misogynist. I think we have all seen it. A YouTuber or commenter making coherent and structured criticisms of Rey or Finn's character, being called names by silly individuals who don't understand that people will occasionally have different opinions to theirs. Now let us consider the insults used: racist, sexist, and misogynist. These are words which originate from political debate and are used by politicians and political actors as tools to silence their opposition. Racist, for instance, is not an argument. It is a shame label supposed to scare and deter the individual from expressing their opinion further. The insult of racist is far more potent than an insult such as idiot, because racist, like sexist and misogynist, imply that the person holds morally repugnant views and is a lowlife. Too often these shame labels work, either causing the labelled to be silent, or else spend paragraphs explaining how their opinions and arguments do not come from some illogical, mindless hatred or contempt, but instead from an understanding of storycraft, at least in the case of these new Star Wars films. I observed in the artistic debates that I have just described that often the labelled were left angry and bitter, and sometimes they would lash back and call their insulters SJWs or progressives. But these labels are not offensive to SJWs or progressives. Look at it this way: if you were a communist, would you be offended if someone called you one? No, you would be offended if they called you a capitalist. Progressive and social justice warrior are to these people compliments because they accurately describe their political position. Now, insults such as idiotic or idiot do not have the same potency as labels such as racist and sexist because they do not imply immoral views. In the wake of The Last Jedi, where fanboys, journalists, and even Lucasfilm employees started throwing these labels at the critical fans, some of the critical wanted to fight fire with fire, and I put it to you now that there are 3 insults which those critical of Star Wars' new direction frequently use: cuck, soy boy, and shill. Cuck is offensive because it means you are a pathetic man who is perfectly fine with his woman sleeping around. Soy boy implies that you are a weak beta male with low testosterone, and I shouldn't really have to explain why that is an insult to men. And shill as an insult is especially potent, because it accuses you of being a paid liar and suggests that you don't actually possess an opinion of your own. Shill has come into common usage among Star Wars fans because of the incredible difference of opinion between the fans and the professional critics. This great gulf of opinion between the fans and the critics has led to the theory that the professional critics were paid for their good reviews. I have made a video about the positive reviews The Last Jedi received. After analysing them in that video, I must admit that I think some of them were written by shills. These insults have potency, but most importantly, they are labels, which imply that the individual is either a weakling and a wimp, or is a liar and thus can be safely ignored. So what is the result of these insults being adopted by many of those who are critical of Star Wars' new direction? Quite simply, the death of discussion in the Star Wars fandom. I have seen normal people called shills and beta cuck soy boys simply for saying they liked The Last Jedi. I have seen people called sexist misogynists for opposing the progressive feminist politics being pushed in the new Star Wars films. People are now less interested in debate, and more invested in offending each other. Now, I'm not trying to say that there is no reasonable discussion happening in the Star Wars online community, but large segments of it are partaking in vitriol, and offence is currently the name of the game. Star Wars is starting to resemble the political scene, where different partisan groups are more interested in denigrating each other than persuading one another. The sense of polarization and breakdown in both cases is sharp, and the lack of reasonable debate is only aggravating the situation. In the case of Star Wars, this lack of healthy discussion and the prevalence of insults has damaged the sense of fun which once existed. I am also of the opinion that this development marks yet another step towards the depth discussion in our societies, making us less informed, less intelligent, and bringing out the worst in all of us. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have an excellent day.